Good morning, everybody. My name is Jay Johnson. I'm the pastor here at the church in Roy, Illinois. I'd like to share a couple things with you this morning about the tools we have and what do we do with those tools. This is a tool belt that I used to wear. This my brother Roger was a carpenter, and the first job I ever got was working for him as a laborer. Well, which meant I had to carry all the boards and do all the cleanup and all that stuff. But he very quickly, probably the first day, he gave me a belt like this. This was his belt. I now have it. I got it from him when he was unable to work so much anymore. And it carries all the stuff that you really need. There's a place in here for your hammer and nails and tape measure and various other things. But suffice it to say that the tool belt that we have to have is what we carry around on the inside of us. And I learned a lot from my brother because he was always kind of flying by the seat of his pants, because every time there was an operation going on, we were building houses. He was always thinking 4 steps ahead of everybody else. And I realized you have to do that if you're going to be the craftsman that he was. The reason I bring up that example is because we have tools that are at our disposal. Those tools, key among them is this. Now, we hear a lot about the Bible, but there's a lot of tools in here that we can use. I'd like to share a passage with you. This is from, I was reading from Nehemiah chapter 6. Nehemiah, he was guided by the Lord to go back to the homeland where the Jews lived, and he was going to rebuild the walls of the city because the walls had tumbled down. And because the walls weren't there, they had no protection, and they needed protection. And so Nehemiah is in the process of trying to build this wall, but there's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of folks in the locals there. They were not of the Jewish faith, and they were pretty antagonistic, and they tried to dissuade Nehemiah from his task of building the walls. So it says this is in chapter 6, some of his enemies came up to him, and they tried to persuade him to leave that and come to talk with them. We need to have you come away from him. But they were scheming to harm me, he says. So I sent messengers to them with this reply: I am carrying on a great project and cannot come down to you. And I really like that, because the project that he was building on was building the walls for protection around the city, the walls of protection for his people. So the question I ask, that we all ask ourselves, I hear this quite a bit. People say, what am I doing? Why am I here? What's the point? What's my task? Things like that. Because there's a lot of confusion. Like you ask most students when they're in college and they're getting ready to graduate, what are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know why I'm here. And we see a lot of people sort of chase after things that probably are foolish. Interestingly enough, I get calls every day, from people saying, I'm not quite sure about this, or what do I do now? And that's okay, because everybody around us has questions. And we need to go to someone that has some answers to the questions. Talking about that whole image of building, I'd like to share this passage with you. I think this has always been one of my favorites. This is from the book of Isaiah. Isaiah he's a prophet to his people that are very confused. They're doing some really foolish stuff, really stupid stuff. But this is what he says to Isaiah. Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls and restorer of streets with dwellings. You will be called repairer of broken walls and restorer of streets with dwellings. He says that to Isaiah. Isaiah says that to his people. And through this written word, God says it to us. We are called to be repairers of broken walls. There's a lot of people that are broken, and they're broken more often than not from the inside out. We can't see the wounds that are on the inside. We can't be critical necessarily of what's going on the inside because we don't know. It's interesting, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he was that guy in the Second World War, the German, he was a pastor, he was a theologian, and he was a spy. He was the one that was working to bring down the Third Reich because he knew that there had to be something on the inside that was wrong. And his desire was to help to rectify that. And he made this, I'm going to try to give this quote to you from Bonhoeffer. Bonhoeffer says, we shouldn't look so much at what people have done or not done, whether they've done the things they should have done, but we probably should look at them and evaluate them on the level to which they have suffered. Pretty powerful thing. And you see, nobody can know that except God himself, which is why he gives us this word. You know, we're not very smart people because we very often keep doing the same foolish things over and over. I simply share this to say that God gives us the opportunity to know his word. And when we know his word, even though it's just a little bit, that little bit can help us to tame our tongue, to slow down, to listen, and to see what it is that people's needs are. And then we can be those repairers of broken walls. And sometimes, and maybe just for today, I should tell you that the biggest thing we can do is just to simply slow down, keep our mouth closed, and hear what people are saying. It really is it's a really key aspect. I can't overemphasize that enough. I'll finish with this illustration. Years ago, I got a phone call from a place I'd never even heard of, from a woman I'd never even met. And I said, how did you get my phone number? And she said, well, I just kind of looked it up in a phone book and I called you. And I said, well, how can I help you? And she began to pour out this emptiness that was in her heart. And she said, I'm not going to tell you what my name is. I'm not going to even tell you. She told me what part of the state she was from. She was from way over on the west side, which I didn't know. And she began to share. And I said, what do you want from me? And she simply said, I simply want someone that's going to listen to me and not be critical. You see, folks, that's what God calls upon us to do, is to listen to the hearts of what people have to say. And God will give us the answers to say. He will tell us, because we are called to be the repairers of broken walls. I just want to say thanks for being with me today. I do want to encourage you to have the ears that Jesus would listen with. That's what he calls us to do. Blessings to you. I'll be talking to you soon. Thanks again. Bye now.